Hey, what's up? Welcome back to my kitchen. Today I want to show you my favorite way to do scalloped potatoes. And it's a cross between scalloped potatoes and potatoes au gratin. I'm going to add, of course, a Greek flair or a Greek twist to it. It's going to be absolutely fantastic, delicious, and simple to make. The difference with this recipe is rather than using cream and all that, I'm using a Greek style bechamel sauce. I'm using feta, of course, can't forget the feta. I'm using a really nice gruyere in this. And I'm also gonna amp up the textures and the flavors by adding sliced tomato in this. I know, but in the end, you're gonna see it's gonna be beautiful and it's gonna totally work. And for those of you that could either take it or leave it when it comes to this kind of potato, believe me, my friends, you're going to take it like a champ. So as we're going to be slicing our potatoes and you're going to be using a mandolin slicer, I really recommend safety first. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your potatoes down and start slicing them slowly. And once you get to the point where you're almost at the edge of your slicer, you use this. And then you just kind of go at it back and forth and be careful when you're around the blade. Another way, if you want to know how many potatoes to slice, is do what I'm doing. Actually use the pan you're going to be baking the muffin to actually throw in your sliced potatoes. And that way you always, without exception, know exactly how much you need to slice. All right, and that's the last of my potato that I'm going to use. And again, safety is paramount when you're using a mandolin slicer. Let me get this out of the way here. So now I have my potatoes, and you can see that they're all laid out in my pan. I've got exactly the amount that I need, which is actually perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take them, place them in my bowl, and when I'm ready for them, I can just use them. I'm also going to fill this bowl up with a little water, and that way my potatoes don't start kind of oxidizing on me and getting all brown and black, and then that just doesn't look good. Another thing I like to do is keep the skins on. It's a preference of mine. I like the contrast of color in the dish. If you want to peel your potatoes, that's totally fine. The next order of business is the actual flavoring and the bechamel. So for this, I am using a standard bechamel recipe that works perfectly. It's on the looser side, and we'll go through that right now. I'm just going to fire up my pan here. And for this bechamel recipe, I am using olive oil instead of butter. Preference of mine, I like the flavor that it adds to this dish, and that's exactly what I enjoy. If you want to use butter, again, totally fine too. So I'm going to take a quarter cup or so of my Greek extra virgin olive oil, place it in my saucepan. I'm going to take my one onion that I'm going to use in this, and I'm just going to quarter it up so that way I can do it in my food processor. Perfect. You don't need much at all with this. Let me put that aside here. And just place it in your pan and let your onion start sauteing. And there's my favorite sizzle. And believe me, you don't need much to this at all. You're not really trying to caramelize the onion. You're just trying to get it to the point where it's translucent and all the flavor comes out. So that's perfect. Let that go there. I'm also going to add 1 tablespoon of minced garlic to this. Garlic, potatoes go really well together. No salt in this recipe, by the way. Because there's feta in this and there's the gruyere, I'm not going to add any extra salt for my recipe. If you think you can go a little heavier on the salt, by all means, feel free to add it. As we're cooking now and getting on with things, a good time right now would be to preheat your oven 375 degrees Fahrenheit or about 180 degrees Celsius. Get that off and going. And as well, our pan. I'm just using like a 12 and a half inch round stainless steel pan. You can go square, you can go round, you can go whatever you want. I'm going to add maybe a tablespoon or two of my olive oil to the pan as well. And what I'm going to do is real quick, just coat the sides of the pan and all around. We don't want our potatoes sticking as they cook off. So that'll take like a second or two. Perfect. That's done and out of the way. Check our onions and garlic, and they're coming along awesome as well. Perfect. Nothing to this so far. We're building our flavor base, our flavor profile. Easy peasy. The next part of this is the flour portion of our roux. For this, I'm using equal parts of flour as I did olive oil, so therefore, I'm putting in a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And at this point now, I want to grab my whisk, and this is where I think it makes a difference when you're making a roux or a bechamel. The whisk will keep it a little smoother, a little silkier, and nothing worse, believe me when I tell you, than like a clumpy bechamel or a clumpy sauce, especially when it comes to like a flour-based sauce. No, not good at all. Now that our roux is tightened up, I'm going to slowly start adding my milk. Now here's the thing when it comes to bechamels and milk. Try not to put cold milk from the fridge in the bechamel. It just makes things easier and it works better for the recipe. And you almost want to temper your bechamel so that way you're not kind of adding a whole bunch of milk and waiting for your base or your bechamel to coagulate and tighten up. Now, as our bechamel is tightening up, I'm going to take a little bit of pepper and put it in. Bechamel pepper works well. Now, here's the thing. In every bechamel, you need a little bit of that extra zing. And in this bechamel, it is nutmeg. And for this, I'm going to use about 1/8 of a pod. You don't need much. You just need enough to get that little je ne sais quoi happening. So that's that. Throw in my nutmeg, and that's going to give us that distinct flavor as well. And I'm going to pour in the rest of my milk. Perfect. Just like that. And it's just going to now work its way to tighten up. One of my favorite things in this recipe is fresh thyme. And what I'm going to do for this is I'm literally going to take a small sprig or a decent sized sprig, and I'm going to literally put it in my bechamel right now and just let it almost steep and roll out its flavor or its essence. But then when I'm ready to kind of use my bechamel on my potatoes, I'm simply going to pull it out, and all it's going to be left is a beautiful flavor of thyme. And I love working with thyme. Thyme sprig has been in there for a few minutes. Our sauce is thickening up, so time to take it out. Time to take out the thyme. That's awesome. That's getting perfect right there. That's what I'm looking for. You don't want a really runny consistency, but you don't want a really tight consistency either. So my bechamel is pretty much done, and we're just going to leave that off to the side now until we need it. Time to put our actual plate or our dish together. I'm going to take my potatoes that we're soaking, empty them out. Nothing worse than like browning potatoes. And all you're going to do is start layering them up flat or as flat as you can get them. So our bechamel is going to be distributed in 2 parts. I'm going to take it and distribute half here like this, so it goes all over. This is like amazing, so delicious. It smells fantastic. Now, the Greek part of this. I'm taking about 80 to 90 grams of feta, and I'm crumbling the feta throughout in the middle layer of my scalloped potatoes at this point. This is going to become all melted and gooey and become absolutely beautiful. Now, we take the rest of our potatoes and lay them out. It's not complicated. There's like nothing to this. And again, an even layer through the top, just like this. So that's perfect right there. The next part of this, as we were saying about the flavor buildup, is I'm adding tomatoes to this, sliced tomatoes. And for this, I'm just gonna hand slice, and there's only a few, and very simply, slice them as thin or as thick as you like. Let me bring back my platter here, or my pan. And what I'm gonna do is simply take my potatoes and just garnish them almost as if you were doing a pizza all around the top. Pretty much your whole surface area is covered. So I probably need a couple more slices. That's perfect right there. There's one, and one little one more. Perfect. Just like that. So now my pan is covered, my potatoes are covered. Here's the thing. Now I'm going to finish with my bechamel topping all over these. Tell me this does not look absolutely amazing. Just like that. And you thought that's it. But there's more. I love using gruyere in sandwiches, in melt, in just about anything. In mac and cheese, it is absolutely fantastic. Well, in this case, I'm using it as my topping. And instead of grating it, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to cut up about 100 grams or so of my gruyere and coarsely chop it in my food processor. It's going to give it a more coarse texture, and that's what I want. I don't want anything that's too uniform. I want something that looks kind of rustic. And just and that's perfect. When you pulse it up, you're going to get chunks of the gruyere. So it's going to look like this. And all you're going to do is just spread it around, literally even. And it doesn't have to be perfect, you know, just do the best that you can. So the cooking for this next is we're going to take some aluminum foil and cover this. And we're going to cover this, and it's going to bake for 1 hour covered, and then another half hour uncovered to give us that browning that we want. Assuming I can get at this aluminum foil. All right, my pan's ready to go. Off into the oven it goes. 1 hour covered and another half hour uncovered, or until the top is golden brown and bubbly and melted and blistered. All right, and here we have our finished product. Our scalloped potatoes au gratin are right out of the oven. As you can see, the cheese on top has melted completely, and nothing better than freshly baked or roasted gruyere. Our feta in the middle has also melted nicely, and our tomatoes have stewed perfectly. So I'm just going to dig into this now real quick, just to give you guys an idea what it looks like. And I have to apologize for the voiceover. I lost my voice during the shooting of this video, so I had to do this over a couple of days later. So here is our finished scalloped potatoes Greek style au gratin. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let our community grow. And until next time, I thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.